Hello and welcome to Deep In Pact, a proud member of the Duff Network where we dive deep into Wildbow's most shortest work, 5 years on. Coming up next is Elliot Diebold.
And that was Ruben Morehouse.
And we are back to talk more about Pact. Wild idea, I know, but here we are. Judgment 16.9, that's the name of the game. Before we get into that, let's talk about our 24-hour live stream, Elliot, because we got one coming up.
Yep, just the one, I think.
Yep.
But yeah, so
the first of many.
So one of the activities we're going to be doing in that we wanted to highlight today is we're going to be joined by our friend Jay Maniac, who wants to talk about magic and society in Pact with us. Those of you who are listening who are patrons might be familiar with Jay's journey through Pact, just a little bit behind us for most of it. Yeah, I know Jay's had some really great insights into the story, and I'm really excited to hop on and discuss it during the live stream.
Yeah, definitely. And tune in for that on March 7th. But for now, let's continue talking about Judgment 16.9, because it starts with things getting worse. As many Pact chapters begin, things get worse. Basically, blades continue to erupt all around Blake and our group, and these vestiges turn into half vestiges or quarter vestiges, and they begin to basically smush in on the group.
Yeah, and I mean, there's a fantastic sort of double strategy here. Like, not only is the battlefield shrinking, but the number of enemy combatants is, like, rapidly increasing.
Yes.
There was sort of already a strong impression last chapter about how we had this sort of endless tide of enemies. And this chapter just, like, ramps that up. And now it's just like, you know, the tide is coming in. It almost feels like they're being taken over by this tsunami of enemies.
Yeah, it's a real scrappy, chaotic kind of fight, which, you know, on the plus side is totally Blake's wheelhouse, right? Like, he clearly does better in these scrappy kind of fights than he does in drawn-out practitioner duels.
Yeah, well, it's so perfect for like, what's going on here. Like the Barber is a demon of ruin, so of course he's not going to have, you know, some formal military, you know, employing proper stratagems or whatever. Like, there's no order to this. He's created this disordered mass of enemies, and he just uses the sheer number of them to, like, overwhelm you. There's nothing organized about this.
Yeah,
because that would be the opposite of what he sort of stands for. But yeah, I mean, well, as you just mentioned, that's what his son is good at too. So.
Yeah, like father, like son, I suppose.
So Blake kind of thrives here a bit. For most of it, but yeah, like, it's just so perfect to everything that's been set up about the Barber.
Yeah, it definitely is. Yeah, you're right. I didn't make the connection of the ruin leading to chaos, but it's a good one. So Blake kind of thinks about this and thinks how basically what Barbatorum seems to be doing is kind of binding the humans, which is a bit of a wild strategy. Basically, the thought that, you know, like binds like, and these are armies of, you know, very populous, numerous, weak creatures, which describes humans pretty well. And I don't know, maybe that's a bit of a stretch, but I think the fact that Blake thinks that it might be true, again, kind of makes it true.
Yeah, well, and a lot of the vestiges we used to be humans, and obviously, you know, in our main duo right here, we have also vestiges who used to be humans. Yeah. So at the very least, it's going to do something to them. Yeah, I mean, Lola kind of delivers on this towards the end of the chapter. Like, she talks about how what Barbatorum does here is basically like enchantment style tactics. And again, like, I think this was what really started to get me worried about how the fight's going to go over the next few chapters, because they're sort of relying on being able to surprise the Barber by humaning him, like surprising him with their powers of belief. But like, this sort of technique right here to me shows that, I mean, Barbatorum's pretty switched on. Like, he kind of uses a human technique against them.
Yeah, he gets how it all works.
Yeah, like, you know, he's not dumb, basically. And, like, I think, you know, their whole plan kind of relies on catching him off guard with just their belief that they can get this to work. And now we've just kind of got to hope that that's still true, even if Barbatorum knows that's what they're trying to do.
Yeah. Interesting. It's an interesting wrench to throw in the plan, right? Of, no, Barbatorum understands this world too. You can't kind of just outthink him because he's operating on the same level as you guys.
Yeah, I mean, that seems to be the case. So it's going to be really interesting to see. I mean, and that's a lot of this chapter sort of sets up how, you know, theatrical the Barber is being with a lot of this. I mean, we'll get there at
Yeah.
the end. So yeah, like I think they've maybe underestimated how clever the Barber's being with a lot of this, and
Yeah.
that has me. I can't say more worried because I think I'd already maxed out at worry, but you know, it's a cause for concern.
Yeah, definitely. So another interesting thing that happens here is, and this kind of gets contextualized a bit more later, but Blake keeps referring to Rose's body. And so it's a bit confusing at first, but it kind of comes out later that Blake's body is kind of seemingly a bit of a shell around Rose's body, which re-emphasizes to me that there is, in Blake's mind at least, this explicit separation of Blake and Rose still. And he's not claiming ownership over this body. He's kind of manifesting to protect it, which is interesting to think about, considering the fact that that probably means he's still on board with the Rose be the one who survives plan.
Yeah, like I got the impression last chapter that he was starting to scrub bits of Rose's body away, like kind of phase them out of existence to make himself more hollow. And that, like, I guess, you know, I think he maybe did that for some parts, but not all. But you're right, like it's not it's kind of like, I feel like it's like physically, you're right. There's sort of this Blake shell kind of popping out of Rose, like it's not quite around her because he came out of her in a very gruesome way.
Yeah, it's like a twig mech that Rose's lifeless body is piloting.
Yeah, like those you know, in like the Last of Us, like those sorts of zombies with made out of funguses and stuff. It's little fungi. It's like that. Yeah, so you're right. Like it's different when it's Blake in charge of Rose versus the other way around, because she, I think, is the core of the essence that they are at the moment.
Yes.
And yeah, I don't know. It's gonna be interesting to see. I mean, they both cop a beating here, but I think Rose is less used to doing that. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how their bodies hold up going forward.
Yeah, definitely. I'm interested to see what happens next. So Blake continues to kind of fight his way through this horde of courted vestiges. And Paige starts attempting to work some magic, and she's clearly trying to communicate with Blake, but he is too busy to stop and listen. So Rose basically forces him to stop fighting by hitting him with a few well-placed and very powerful memories.
Yeah, and so, look, I mean, obviously, what's about to happen is very intense, and this whole paradigm of Blake and Rose possessing each other is not sustainable. But I got to admit, I really liked the thought of the idea of, like, if you missed something, it's okay because the spirit inside you heard it, and they can just help you listen. I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. And then, of course, well, then the memories happen, and I was like, oh, this is rough. But for a moment there, I was like, oh, this is cool.
Yeah, it would have been better if Blake had just listened, obviously. But yeah, no, it's interesting. And honestly, of all the terrible things to happen to Blake in this story, this is one I wouldn't mind. Just having a kind of person who can catch the things when you're not quite paying attention enough and repeat them back to you on the sly.
Yeah, exactly.
So let's talk about this memory selection, because Rose chooses these horrifying memories, memories that are so terrible that they force Blake to do something that he's never done, which is stop fighting. And so, obviously, in order to do this, Rose needs to find memories that are powerful enough, and these memories would be rare because Blake is obviously basically built to never stop fighting. But still, it's like, these are really messed up memories for Rose to pull, right?
I mean, yeah, like, as you mentioned, on the one hand, it's kind of like, okay, she has to make a big statement because this is very not Blake. Second of all, like, there's not many Blake gives up memories, especially ones that he's going to recognize as that. So, you know, between him being a bad listener, it really being something he's not going to listen to, and them being rare, I can sort of see how Rose ended up having to choose these memories. But, you know, I feel like we're getting the flip side of, remember when Blake was shoving memories at her that made her start caring about people last arc?
Yeah.
And she was being, like, really affected by it, and Blake didn't seem to really register that this much. Like, I wonder if that's what's happening here, and Rose is just like, oh, these are good memories, and they're going to be rough, but, like, you know, it's worth it. And like, meanwhile, Blake is just out here being like, "Oh, holy fuck, Rose,
Yeah.
chill out."
Yeah, definitely. It could be. Yeah, I mean, we did see that disconnect from Blake's perspective when he was inside Rose's head, so it's not a huge leap to imagine that Rose probably isn't as empathetic as we thought she might be around some of this stuff.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the other thought I had here was like, so obviously there's the Carl related one, and then there's also the one where he was getting beaten up under the bridge in the sleeping bag, and like, would Rose have known about either of these? Even if you discount the memory loss due to like, she must be finding out about this as she's sort of trawling through his head looking for memories like this. Like, that's like what's going through her head as well, like.
Yeah.
Like that'd be interesting to see, is how her learning that these are the memories Blake got left with that she lost. Like that's got to be a bit of a trip for her as well.
Yeah, true. I guess Rose doesn't know this part of the backstory that Blake seems to think now is actually definitely real, like actually happened to Rusty. So it must be really trippy for Rose to see some of this stuff and be like, oh shit, this is my trauma, this is what happened in my life, and it's just been completely cut away from me.
Yeah, exactly. Like we talked about how much this hurt Blake, and it totally did. But I feel like this whole scenario was a bit of a lose-lose, which that's Blake and Rose's forte.
Yeah, who would have
thought? Like it's just this would have been painful all round, but it works, and it gets Blake to give up, which, as you mentioned, is a feat.
Yeah, definitely. So it's revealed what magic Paige has cast, and it seems to be this kind of karmic retribution spell, basically, meaning that anybody who dishes out any damage takes, retribution, basically gets hurt, in exchange. And so Blake's response to this is kind of to, I guess, passively resist his way to victory.
Yeah, he just kind of has to take the hits and press forward, knowing that those people are getting punished in and of themselves. Which is like, this is so yeah. What Paige is basically set up here seems to be like super karma, and I mean that's so great because we were just talking about how the Barber has set up this disordered sort of chaos. I keep trying not to use that word because that's another choir, but Paige has like fought it with the opposite. She's instilled like superpowered order, and she's boosted the natural order. And it's so perfectly, like, this is the thing that does far and away the most damage to these hordes and is the only reason they really get out, which is Paige instills a big layer of order on the battle scene, and it totally wrecks Barbatorum's, disordered group.
Yeah. It's a good thematic riposte, but also just like a very good move by Paige because it plays exactly into Blake's strength, which is getting hurt.
yeah. And like also, I guess I don't know. This brought up something for me. Like I think we've talked a lot since our reveal about humans being change engines. That we thought that was going to be important to how things are going to like fall apart at the end. This would probably be important too, right? Like Paige here has fought the Barber with the antithesis of him. Like I think all we've really seen with demons is you don't fight with demons. You fight them with their opposite.
Yeah.
So I don't know how this is going to manifest, but some sort of very human organizational thing feels like what might be the slam dunk to get stuff to happen in these next 4 chapters. Oh God, is that all they have to figure it out?
Yeah, the clock's ticking, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a really cool move by Paige, right? And there's a lot of really cool thematic stuff. Not the least is that it's great that there's a Thorburn whose specialty is just vindictive karma magic. Like, it just is hilarious. I love it.
Yeah. It's good.
Yeah. So we also see Blake notices the bra goblin, the goblin who he gives the bra to, basically doesn't attack and gets punished by Paige's spell. And seems to be basically out of commission now, which just means this whole bra gift thing from last chapter didn't really go anywhere, which I think makes it even better.
I mean, the goblin's still around at this point in the fight. That's kind of impressive. Like,
yeah, I suppose that's a win for a goblin.
I don't know. I want to give Bra Goblin the benefit of the doubt. I'm on Rose's team here.
All right, fair enough. I mean, weird hill to pick to fight on, but fair enough, Elliot. You do you. So Blake, using this opportunity that Paige has given him, Blake manages to fight his way back to the rest of the group. But of course, when he reaches the group, he realizes that a key player is missing. Green Eyes. She's kind of pinned down in a big mess of these vestiges, and so Blake fights his way over to her and rescues her.
I was gonna say, it seemed too easy, but it totally didn't. Blake got the shit beat out of him to get there. So
yes,
it's just Pact. It was still too easy, but it wasn't easy. Yeah, I don't know. I love this moment because it's just like we just get back to safety, and just as you're about to take a breath, it's like, wait, where's Green Eyes? You just immediately like, well, Blake's gonna have to go get her. Like that's not, that's not negotiable.
Yeah, which is good. Like it's good that there's still things that he is not going to negotiate on. And actually, we'll pull out another one later on that I think is quite interesting. But yeah, this is he really is her knight in shining. Let's say knight in glistening armor, because that can have a bit grosser of an implication.
Yeah, although obviously she gets to return the favor very quickly, because as they get about halfway back, Paige's spell runs out and it goes back to Green Eyes as a beast mode.
Yeah.
So it's very much a mutual savesmanship.
Yeah.
But yeah, like it was one of those things where the second we sort of learned what was happening to Green Eyes, I was like, oh shit, like of course, like she hurt, like the whole thing was she was doing so well because she hurts things just by touching them.
Yeah.
And so now she can't stop. And that's just, I mean, I guess that's a little bit Green Eyes, right? Like, you know, we sort of saw from Rose's perspective how she was just kind of a crazy monster, basically, when it came to Rose. And there's extenuating circumstances there, but yeah, I don't know. Green Eyes is someone I'm very interested to see where they're at in, you know, at the end of the story. Because like what has she got in her future? I mean, we talked about this a lot at the end of Arc 12, but you know, what's her future actually going to look like? That's super interesting to me.
Yeah, but the thing about Green Eyes is it seems like she'll be the one that's the most, you know, the most content with whatever future they manage to get. Like, as long as she's got people that she cares about, ... Blake, then she'll be happy. And I mean, maybe that won't happen, but it does seem like if Green Eyes is going to get a happy ending, it's going to be because it's with Blake, and so she'll probably be fine.
Well, exactly, that's the thing. But what if Blake and Chicken Nugget like bite the bullet?
True.
In this fight, like what would her happily ever after, or does she have a happily ever after at that point?
I don't know. It's a good question. So Blake has rescued Green Eyes and the group is reunited, but of course things can't ever go well for too long. They're reunited and a bunch more blades spring out everywhere, and Ainsley barely has enough time to save them, but she does, and she spends it all saving them.
Boo.
Yeah. I love this though. So Ainsley breaks a candle and it turns the world into a cinematographic slow motion kind of shot.
Yeah, it's like it's in text bullet time.
Yeah, and it's so wild. Like it's the type of text moment in this text where you can just see it. You can just see it in your head as people are kind of desperately trying to slow motion move their bodies out of the way of these blades that are coming at them from all angles. It's great.
Yeah, like you can picture like everything moving in slow-mo except their eyes and maybe like their facial expressions. And like there's a bit where Blake kind of looks across the group and sees everyone dodging their blades. And I just like, you're right, I just pictured it as this panning shot where we're sort of crossing and seeing each one in turn.
Yeah.
There's the moment where we hear a Green Eyes shriek, which really stood out to me because that seems like so much more emotional than anything we've really heard from her. Like,
yeah.
And it's because, you know, there's the second sneak attack blade coming for Blake and Rose, and like you can just again picture like Blake's head slowly turning as the camera slowly turns to like see this blade coming right at him. It's it's so fantastic, this bit.
Yeah, it's really fun. It's really fun. So yeah, the group does well with Ainsley's help. They all manage to dodge their blades, so that's good. Unfortunately, these blades aren't just blades, they're big pairs of scissors, which start to close, and everybody's caught off guard.
This is one of those great twists I'm always sort of talking about, where it's just like, as it starts happening, you're like, how did I not see this coming?
Yeah, man, it's so good. We get these lines where everything just kind of settles down, and then Blake, then we get, then the first of the blades moved. What I'd assumed to be blades were only part of shears or great pairs of scissors. And it's this moment of like, oh, okay, we did it, we dodged. And then suddenly, oh shit, it's like immediately, there's no way people are going to be able to dodge this cleanly. And they don't. It really completely fucks over the team. Blake and Rose both get part of their hands cut off.
Yeah. So, like, again, this is sort of this second moment. We just talked about it where Blake gets back to the group. There's quite a few moments in this fight where it's just like, the second you feel like they might be able to get some respite, it's just immediately like, oh no, things are even worse.
Yeah, more blades come out of the ground, usually.
Yeah. It's such an embodiment of the story, really. And yeah, like you said, Blake and Rose sort of both lose like a decent chunk of their left hands from the seams of it, which you know, now she matches Alistair a bit because he's missing his right hand, right? They can,
yay, they can hold hand.
It's like, you know, they're made for each other.
Yeah.
Actually, well, that's not the right phrase to use with Rose and a couple, is it?
Well,
I take that
Rose
back.
is made for him. Alistair was born for her.
Yeah.
Can we talk about, again, this brings up the different body parts thing, because Blake explicitly thinks that he loses some of his hand and Rose loses some of her hand, which is so weird and must mean they have separate hands and Blake's hands are just like a wrapper around Rose's hands.
Yeah, like I am sort of picturing it as it's kind of like Blake with bits of Rose underneath and he's phased some bits out, but like there's still lots of Rose flesh kind of visible where he would normally be hollow. Which I guess just kind of means it's closer to what Blake was, you know, like in arc 10 or so before he fully twigged out.
Yeah, true. There's this other line that I really like where Blake thinks, I had to double check that I hadn't been cut so deep that there was a double of me. Which, first of all, that's just insane. Like the idea of Blake being cut in half again. But I'm also really curious to see what a quartered version of Rusty would have looked like. Like Blake and Rose and, you know, Ross and Bridget, I guess.
I had the same thought. I was like, I feel terrible, but like I'm kind of disappointed no one got cut because I wanted to see what it would look like.
No one got cut that we know of.
Well, yeah, true. But like Blake and Rose, yeah, that'd be a really interesting one. Like, where would the cut go? Like, what rules and stipulations are there around cutting them again, especially now that one's possessing the other?
Well, I was kind of thinking for a second on my first read, not this time around, but on my first read, I was thinking, what if Blake's hand gets cut off and then suddenly there's just like these two little vestige hands that are trying to like choke them or something? Or maybe Blake can like adopt one of them and then he has this hand pet that he can like throw at things and it'll try and choke them and stuff. Don't pretend that wouldn't have been awesome.
No, yeah, sure. Yeah, I don't know. Like I went off on a big tangent here in my live read thinking about like, do you reckon Rose Senior might have put extra rules in the agreement about cutting Blake and Rose about cutting them again?
Yeah.
Like maybe they're protected from subsequent cuts in some way. That would be a nice feature for them to have in this final fight, is why I was thinking that.
True.
But even then, like, you know, yeah, with them possessing each other, would it be like two halves of Blake and Rose? Like, would we have two half possessions going on? Would it, like, maybe they just pop back out and it'd be Blake and Rose again? That'd be convenient. So, not that.
Yeah, that'd be so helpful.
Yeah, like, yeah, I don't know. I was kind of like, oh, would have been cool if they got cut. Like, it would have been awful, but would have been cool.
Yeah. So the group manages to kind of pull themselves together. Then none of them are dead from this, so that's good. And they manage to finally bust into the tower, slipping inside, and they kind of seal the door closed behind them.
And so it took me till here to realize that this chapter is just a zombie movie.
Yeah.
Like, we've just had the hordes of like mindless enemies. We had the heroic dive into the crowd to rescue someone who fell over. And now we have the conversation about if anyone got bit.
Yeah, totally. It's great. I love that last pull out of they are just talking about if anyone got bit without them noticing in this. It's such a good pull. The thing I love is they're worried about is did anyone get barbiturated, and it's a good thought. Like it's something they should check. But immediately Paige is like, well, what about you, Blake? And they kind of figure out that Blake didn't. but then that's the end of the conversation. Like, they didn't rule anybody else out, and it gives me this feeling of like, oh, I hope this doesn't come back.
Yeah. I like on my second read through, I did sort of try to like, put my tinfoil on and see if I could deduce if anybody might have been barbered. I don't think so, but if I had to put money on it, I reckon Lola. Ainsley's too obvious as a suspect. She, because we just saw that like 2 chapters ago, I think it was, like the fat lump guy, and then there was like the crazy muscle woman other half, and so like my thinking was Ainsley got cut, and this is sort of the weakness half, and then there's some super Ainsley like probably climbing the building or something.
Yeah, I'd love to see that.
whereas Lola's actually the one who kind of redirects the conversation, so maybe we got cunning Lola here. But anyway, again, this is all tinfoiling. I would not put money on either of these, but it was fun to get paranoid for a bit.
Yeah. Yeah, so I realized we skipped over a bit as well, which is there's this moment where Peter pulls what is the best play I've ever seen him make, which is he starts to enter the tower, ducking under a blade, and stops as this blade falls down, and then complains that Barber is too predictable, which is so perfect. It's like such a weird, awesome Peter Thorburn thing to do.
Yeah, well, what was funny as well is it struck me as a very Blake thing to do, because everyone else, like sort of apart from Blake, is sort of like, oh, like, what are you doing? You could have told us, You just go off and do stuff like that. And I was thinking, geez, good thing Blake didn't join in on criticizing that, because I could totally see early story Blake doing this while the group was there and just being like, yep, I knew that was coming, without telling anyone beforehand. There's some interesting bits here about how the blades are very weak, and I think it leads into the conversations that we're about to have about the Barber and where exactly he's at power-wise.
Yeah, well, we're going to talk about that in a little bit, because the group kind of chats about this for a bit before they head up. It's Blake and some of the group. Ainsley, Lola, Evan, and the Musketeers are left behind. And Evan, I think, is a bit rightfully annoyed at this.
Yeah, I mean, trying to get Mr. Doesn't Let Things Go to stay behind was always going to be a bit of a struggle, and it seems like Evan is willing to stay behind, but he's not happy about it.
Yeah, and let's talk about the reason behind this, right? Because Blake says that the reason is, in case things go fucked up upstairs, they need to tear down the tower, and this will, be an okay backup plan. But that's kind of bullshit, right? Like, if things go that badly, I don't think the remaining leftovers of Ainsley, Lola, Evan, and the Musketeers are going to be that much help. I think it's just Blake doesn't want to gamble Evan's life here. Like, even in this most desperate of situations, he isn't willing to put Evan in such a dangerous situation, which, considering that we've kind of tracked how Blake has been kind of abusing his relationship with Evan a bit, especially in Arc 13, it's a good sign.
Yeah, I sort of tried to read that into it as well. Like, I think that's the explanation that makes the most sense. He kind of has tried to do that in the past, like keep Evan out of the danger zone, and this is probably, this is a fight that's going to have a wider danger zone than any other one. So he needs to keep Evan even further away. But, I mean, there's also all the factors to do with Evan. He's going to be coming down from sort of high, with all this fire. Like, I think he's getting back to his original size from the seams of it. So, there's a chance he's about to get into a real rough spot after the sort of, massive hit of all this fire energy.
Yeah, that's true. He's probably on a come down. So this splinter group goes upstairs, and as they're walking up the stairs, there's more discussion about Johannes and Barbatorum and the domain and how it all pieces together, and they're kind of putting together a nugget of a plan here, which is that Barbatorum's acting weird, right? He's acting strange by maintaining a number of human kind of things. And it seems that this is because he is maintaining a connection with Johannes for political leverage, right? And seemingly Johannes still is probably in there a bit. And so that's the kind of weakness that they're hoping to exploit. If they can somehow separate Barbatorum from Johannes, he'll lose a lot of power in this domain, and that will make it easier for them to deal with him.
Yeah, and we'd sort of touched on some of this, like the idea that Barbatorum was dependent on Johannes for the connection to the domain and Faisal and
Yeah.
stuff. But somehow we sort of missed how that might be sort of working a bit mechanically and how that works as a weakness. Which is bizarre because we've been dealing for the last arc and a half with, you know, a possessed couple, and somehow I never thought to extrapolate to what might be going on with Barbatorum and Johannes. But it's certainly, you know, much like any Wildbow Big Bad, the issue here is that Barbatorum is dependent on a tie to humanity, and humanity is a weakness that can be exploited.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, you're right. It's a classic Wildbow finale in that way, I suppose.
I actually haven't read enough Wildbow finales to make that sort of blanket statement, but 2 for 2.
Yeah. So yeah, they reach the top of the tower. We've got Blake, Mags, Green Eyes, Peter, and Paige. And at the top, they see Faisal doing some magic angel gatekeeper shit, Barber Harness sitting on his throne, and half of a dragon that's there to fuck them up. And this is it. It's the final showdown.
Yeah, and so I have to read these lines from as they reach the top of the tower, where Blake thinks to himself, "I was running out of strength, drawing from a finite well. I was prepared to cede control, to simply let go and let Rose be Rose, and I knew it might be my last action. But I did my damnedest to put up a fight, all the same. We reached the top of the stairs. Rose's heart pounded as we crested the top, though the exertion was mine." And like, that's just... Fuck, that's a good line. Like, that's such good writing. This, like, we set up this little warrior moment for Blake where he basically is entering this room, and that thought essentially boils down to, yeah, I'm probably going to end my time in this room by killing myself. And it's capped off with this line, Rose's heart was pounding as Blake is doing the heavy lifting, which is just like, again, like, the way Pact just works, what's happening symbolically into the actual story is so fantastic. Like, I loved this.
Yeah, it's great, isn't it? I love the way this is kind of hanging a lampshade on. This is it. This is the finale. And Blake sets the stakes for himself that if he gives up control here, he knows he's not coming back.
He's basically saying, regardless of how this goes, this is it.
This is it for me. Yes, exactly. And it's such a perfect way of setting us up, because, you know, I'm sure Wildbow wouldn't be writing this unless it was going to come up, or at least be kind of threatened at some point throughout the rest of this story.
Yeah. But I couldn't get over that line about Rose's heart pounding while Blake does the heavy lifting. It's so good. But then it leads into what is a frankly bananas scene. So, like, if we just move through this one step at a time, because holy fuck. So first of all, the dragon isn't even cut, like, completely. Like,
no.
Like, Barber Harness is just flexing with it. It's just, the Barber's just cut it and has surrounded the throne with it. Just as a power play?
Yeah. It's a bit of an insane move, right?
Like, yeah, holy fuck. And, you know, we're just talking about, like, the relationship with Johannes and stuff. This really just shits on everything Johannes was standing for as well.
Yeah.
And then that's not even the craziest thing in the scene, because the spheres that have been, like, in the sky the whole time are apparently, like, a whole other thing up here, because they're just, like, straight up gateways to... I don't even know where the fuck they're gateways to, but it's bad places. It's not good. It's not happy places.
They seem to be... They have a lot of demonic imagery, right? It's described as... There's parts of, like... one of these spheres crowded in teeming masses, giving Blake a close-up of the shapes there, which are lesser demons, so that's fun already. There's one that's like fire and ruin, there's one that's darkness, there's like very strong demonic imagery kind of hinting to us, this gatekeeper who is opening gates is not opening gates to nice places.
Yeah, exactly. Like, this is where Faisal falls into the Barber's plans, basically.
Yeah.
I don't know if Barbatorum is planning on opening these gates fully, or whether this is just a power play, but like either way, I mean, there's the one where it's just the darkness, and when they look in it, there's this sense that it's just taken what you were looking at. Like it's like a, I assume this is a higher level first squire demon than Yeah. It's such a crazy, like, this whole set piece, like this chapter just ends by defining the set piece for next chapter, which is all these fucking demon spheres of awfulness surrounding mostly chopped up dragon and Johannes / Barbatorum in a power pose with Faisal behind them. Like, it's, I think Mags sums it up perfectly with the final line of just fuck.
Yeah, which again, coming from Mags, perfect.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, so basically the plan here is they're on this big tower. It's basically a sumo wrestle. They've got to knock Barbatorum off of the tower, and that will, not win them the day, but make things slightly better.
Yeah, which, like, yeah, I don't see how they're going to do. And as you said, like, that's only step one of, Blake number of steps.
Yeah,
so
their
we'll
plan
see.
is like that meme where step 3 is just a bunch of question marks and step 4 is beat Barbatorum.
Exactly.
So yeah, we'll see how they do that next chapter, I suppose, because that's the end of 16.9. But before we wrap up the episode, let's dive into some comments and see what people were talking about 5 years ago when this chapter first came out. Elliot, hit us with that comment.
So I've got a comment from quite possibly a cat, who I think quite optimistically takes the opinion that Faisal, everything is still going according to Faisal's plan.
Yeah, sure. Very optimistically, I think, at this point.
They do concede at the end that maybe it's just like there's remnants or Faisal might have backup plans, which I think is more realistic. But I just sort of wanted to bring this up because we'd sort of skipped over in the notes. Faisal's here. He's a player in this.
Yeah.
That's going to have to be a thing at some point, whether he is just a slave to Barbatorum or whether he's gonna fucking do something good for a change.
Yeah.
I'm very interested to see where Faisal ends up in this, because surely I know he wasn't a big fan of humans, but I think he hated the demons more. So you'd think sacrificing himself in this situation would be something he would consider. Surely, like, I don't know. I think, he is a planner. That was his whole interlude was about establishing him as a planner. So hopefully he's coming or has come up with a little something. I'm not expecting him to be the linchpin of everything that's about to happen, but if he can tilt the board just a little bit to let our spinning top Blake tip things off, perhaps literally right here, that would be nice.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. It does seem like right now he's completely under Barber Harness's thumb. I put out a comment by Grin Vader, and Grin Vader mentioned something that I think a lot of comments were talking about, which is exactly what can Barbatorum do while he's in Johannes, right? Like, because, let's compare Faisal's relationship with the real Johannes as we saw it. It didn't seem like Faisal was under his thumb, right? It seemed like Faisal was an ally that was kind of taking politically aligned moves. And maybe that's just because Johannes wasn't dominating him as much, but it wasn't a slave-master relationship, so much as it seems to be now, right?
No, well, it seemed like a much more balanced, familiar relationship. Of course, obviously, we know part of that was because Faisal was being a twat the whole time.
Yes.
But, yeah, like, obviously, I'd be willing to believe that Barbatorum comes with enough oomph that he can just sort of subsume Faisal's willpower.
Yeah.
It's not something Faisal wouldn't deserve, in my opinion.
Sure.
But, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it fits into what we were just talking about. Like, I think Faisal's going to get to do something.
Yes, I suspect so too. The other thing that Grin Vader reminds us of is that at one point Blake just totally slashed out Johannes' eyeballs, which is a fucking mad lad thing to do. And I think we shouldn't forget that Blake at one point looked at a guy and was like, "You're dying, you know what, here," and just kind of cuts his eyes off. And it's like, all right, Blake, good moves.
Yeah, well, and it's interesting because there's the line about how Johannes doesn't blink at them here. And,
yes.
And this was something that these commenters were sort of talking about, was like, might that have anything to do with what Blake did as Barbatorum got in there?
Yep. So yeah, we'll have to see how this plays out.
Yeah, because that's it for 16.9.
Yeah. Thanks for joining us, folks, in this, our final bonus episode. If you want to, you can leave us your thoughts on our discussion. I almost said final discussion question, but not yet. On our current discussion question, which is talking about what would your domain be like? And a lot of people have put a lot of thought into designing their perfect domains, and I'm really interested to see everybody's. So if you want to answer that discussion question, you can leave your answer or just general thoughts on this chapter or on the show in our discussion thread, which we linked down below.
Yes, and if you head on over to doofmedia.com, that's where you can find a bunch of other shows that also do discussion questions. Kingslingers, they do them. We've Got Wood, they do them. I don't know about We Want More, actually.
Do the Right Thing is basically one big discussion question.
Yeah, that's true. So yeah, go check it out. There's tons of stuff to talk about on the Doof Media Network, which is why we love being a part of it.
Yeah. If you want to get in touch with us and you don't like Reddit and you don't want to check out the website, well, do you really want to get in touch with us, I guess? But if you're sure you do and you don't like those methods, check out our Twitter, which is at MediaMT Podcast. That's where you can tweet at us, see all the cool memes that we tweet, see all its live reads, all that good stuff.
Yep. And we also have a Patreon, patreon.com/doofmedia. For $1, the big perk you get is access to the Discord.
Heck yeah.
That's another way to get in touch with us. I'm there way too much, personally.
Yeah.
I'm very accessible there.
The Discord has a bunch of fun little events and activities. Recently, a lot of people have gotten really into playing Minesweeper. So for about 4 hours today, I played Minesweeper and chatted to people about it. So that was fun.
Yeah, at one point there were 6 people collaboratively playing Minesweeper. It was amazing.
Yeah.
So that's the kind of wacky shit that happens in our Discord, and it's honestly fantastic, so you should come check it out.
Yep. If you are on Patreon and want to support another person in addition to Doof Media, maybe recommend Wildbow. I mean, he only just wrote this heckin' story, so head on over to patreon.com/Wildbow and give him some dollars.
Absolutely. And with that, we will see you all on Friday, the 21st of February, as we dive into Judgment 16.10.
See you then.